the problem of the TTP, the so-called Pakistani Taliban. Many people believe that they are now being given a safe haven by the Taliban, by the Afghan Taliban in Afghanistan, which is facilitating cross-border terrorism into Pakistan. Pakistan historically, over the last 10, 15 years, has done a good job in terms of dealing with some of its terrorism threat. How do you see the TTP at this point? What are you doing with respect to the Taliban government in Kabul to try to address that threat, and what challenge do you think it poses for the ability to carry off these elections that are coming hopefully in January?
I think so. The situation in the border region along with Afghanistan is not that simplistic as it would appear here in Washington. I used to hear for almost a decade a reverse of the allegation that TTA as a safe haven present in Pakistan.
Right.
And then when we got concluded with the presence of NATO and ISF and US forces, and we learned through lessons learned by the Cigar Accord, hardly one thing which is mentioned in that report is Pakistan. There are plethora of areas and reasons which hints that how did this counterinsurgency or nation-building project or state-building project, whatever you call it, with a squandered opportunity of 2 decades and around $2 trillion was wasted. When we approach and try to appreciate that complex web, in our mind, we are quite clear that we are not dealing with the Westphalian idea of a central state which has all authority and which is extending its execution orders in nook and corner of all of the country. What we are dealing over there is multiple layer of influences of different entities which has masqueraded as a de facto government. So this is the situation which we are dealing over there. Sometimes we do see coordination and cooperation, and we do see sort of a mutual interest and convergence of interest, like dealing with ISIS-K. It is in the interest of the de facto Afghan government also that such entities who are violent, who challenge their own rationale even of taking over a forceful government, but still which can claim that they can monopolize the violence in the given territory. If that is, idea is basically challenged by any group, it doesn't look good on their part. So there is, in some areas, convergence of interest that those groups should be curtailed, controlled, managed as far as their violent capacities. At times, we do feel that there are deficiency and capacity issues serious. Probably there would be intent to maintain and manage such groups like TTP or others, but they are not fully equipped to do the job. We have seen that such non-state actors were not managed fully in terms of curtailing their violent capability with the $2 trillion and the biggest military might documented in mankind's history, with the presence of 20 years. If that could not be attained by militaries from Australia to US, from US to UK, from UK to you just name it, how could, on a realistic account, that it should be expected of an insurgent group which was fighting all these forces for the last 20 years, and they've been just morphed into a role where they have to take up the governance role. So an insurgent group who only knows fight or how to fight has all of a sudden have to manage that violence, collect taxes, deliver on education account, health services. it's a bit ambitious. And in that ambition, I feel, because we have direct implications, my soldiers are being killed on daily basis. Civilian populace is being targeted on daily basis, particularly in the two provinces of Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We have to set the milestones which are achievable, which are doable. And we do believe that we are not alone in resolving this issue, because the threat at a level, it is imminent for Pakistan, but in the midterm future, I feel it is a threat to the whole of region. So a regional approach is required along with all the neighborhood of Afghanistan. I recall here a prescient couplet of poet of East, whom we call and identify as Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. He's commented on the situation of Afghanistan in a very interesting Persian couplet that Asya yak pekare abo gilast, millat Afghan daran dil ast, dar kushade o kushade Asya, dar fasade o fasade Asya. That the body politic of entire Asia is like an idol, and the nation or nationhood of Afghan is placed like a heart in that idol. And if there is a chaos in the heart, there would be chaos in the whole of Asia. And if there is peace in heart, there will be peace in the whole of continent. This is the guiding principle. This is enlightening principle. This is where we draw our inspiration to approach, see, and draw conclusion that how Afghanistan should be dealt with, which has direct connection with groups like that. So we have got a holistic approach of application of kinetics, having different leverages in terms of trade, having other economic opportunities which could be offered as a leverage, and encouraging our traditional social, political, and historical ties. Because no matter what people say, let me remind you and your audience that we are a country who has been host to around 5 million Afghans for 5 decades. There are people who were born there, there are people who were raised there, there are people who are buried. All they know about Afghanistan is that it was an ancestral place from where their parentage came. But for all the practical purposes, they have attended our schools, they have attended our colleges, they have attended our universities. People would argue that there is a constituency of anti-Pakistan sentiment within Afghanistan. What there is, and I, as a Pashtun, I do understand the genesis of that and the background of that. But on a larger account, when it comes people-to-people contact, I've always seen that Afghans have got more of a positive investment in Pakistani society rather than normally people would.